This is Earnings Preview, a look at companies reporting during the week, along with companies which may have positive or negative earnings surprises. Time now to take a look ahead at the week of May the 25th through the 29th. And Charles Roplet, senior market analyst at Zacks.com, is going to help us do just that. Look ahead to a holiday-shortened trading week because there's the Memorial Day.
Thank goodness for those holiday-shortened weeks.
I'm telling you. And not too soon either. Memorial Day here on Monday the 25th, so markets are closed. Probably not much in the way of any economic news out that day either, although the General Motors news is really what's looming large as far as focus is concerned this week.
Absolutely, and although we'll get to earnings in a minute, the General Motors will be the news of the week. They have a May 26th deadline to form an agreement with the debt holders. So far, the bondholders have been balking. One of the sticking points is how much stake does the UAW get in the reformed company versus what the bondholders get. Interestingly, as we record this on May 22nd, there's an article out talking about some of the Republicans in Congress siding with the bondholders. Lest we be political, Robert Reich recently said on his blog that he was critical of how the Obama administration's handling the GM situation. More and more, this looks like it could be a very messy bankruptcy, and that would be a bad thing for the markets. The two deadlines that investors need to keep in mind: one is May 26th. That's the deadline for the bondholders. That could be extended. We'll have to see how things play out. There might be some news over the weekend, so by the time some people are watching this video, this may sound a little dated. The other thing is the June 1 deadline. If there looks like there's progress on the talks, the Obama administration could actually say, we'll extend this deadline a little bit. So nothing's set in stone, but right now it's really looking like GM's going to end up in bankruptcy, and then it becomes a case, are we looking at a nice prepackaged bankruptcy? If that were to occur, that could actually send stocks higher because the market would view that as being very favorable. On the flip side, are we looking at a messy bankruptcy? And depending on how messy it gets, that could be a very big negative for the markets. And the reason is a messy bankruptcy could cause a big disruption across the entire automotive sector, which in turn would cause a big ripple throughout the economy and certainly have people worried about the pace of the economy, how second quarter earnings are going to end up. So we don't know the answer to this. I'm kind of veering towards the negative side and expecting this to be a bit messy, and we'll have to see how the fall is to the overall markets.
Well, GM is a Dow stock, right?
GM is a Dow stock.
And so what does it mean? Have they even discussed a replacement for GM? Should they go into bankruptcy?
One of the SEC filings made by GM called for a 100-to-1 reverse split. If they were to do that, conceivably they'd be able to keep their listing on the New York Stock Exchange and conceivably keep their position in the Dow Jones Industrial Average. The small group of people at Dow Jones who actually control the Dow, I have not seen any news from them about what they're going to do about GM, so we'll have to see how that plays out. And certainly if there's a reverse split, however this ends up, we'll have to see what happens. The one thing I will point out is the current proposal would dilute GM shareholders to a 1% stake in the reformed company, which would be very damaging to the shareholders. So as a result, though, since GM is playing this 100-to-1 reverse split, you could see the share price itself jump. It's just that this new higher priced share is actually 100 shares of what we're seeing right now.
All right, back to earnings. 81 companies confirmed to report in this current week, 9 of which are S&P 500 members. And the standouts among them are what?
Well, one of the standouts is AutoZone, and it's a little bit of a risky pick because we have seen one analyst cut his estimates in recent weeks. We are seeing about 3 analysts raising their estimates, and right now when you look at the overall trend in consensus estimates, it is suggesting that AutoZone will beat. And the reason why I bring up AutoZone in particular, over the past 2 quarters, not only has it beat estimates, but the stock has very much rallied in response. Huge surge in price. So if you're an active trader, it's definitely a stock to keep an eye on. Like I said, there is some risk that the company could miss, especially since we have seen that one estimate cut. We have seen AutoZone miss in the past, so I don't want people to just pile their money into AutoZone. But I should point out that there is very much potential for a huge run-up if the company beats earnings by a wide margin.
And a key piece of economic news comes out at the end of the week, the preliminary first quarter GDP report.
Right, and that'll be our first revised number too, the first quarter GDP. So we'll have to see how that comes out, what revisions are made, what it does to the overall number. I would also point out we will have a lot of housing data coming out this week. We'll have the Case-Shiller Index, we'll have existing home sales, and we'll have new home sales. And obviously the big question is housing finally at a bottom, and are we seeing any type of recovery? And we'll have to see what the numbers show us. We are seeing a slight improvement, but people need to consider we're still well below the levels we saw over the past 2 years, and even a slight improvement's far from a recovery.
All right, and if you want to see some of the stocks that Charles thinks may surprise to the upside and one or two that may surprise to the downside, get over to Zacks.com's homepage and scroll down that homepage until you get to the text version of this particular earnings preview. It'll be the headline that's right next to Charles' picture on our Zacks.com webpage, and click on it and it'll take you right to it, and you can explore that in text form as well. With Charles Roeplet, I'm Terry Ruffalo.